Hey everybody, Smart Silver Stacker here. I got a comment on the channel the other day from a user named Flyboy who said, "First, I want to say I love your channel. I'm a new stacker. The most important topic for me that I wish you would cover, at least briefly, is exit strategies." So that's what we're going to be talking about in today's video, and I'll be giving you my thoughts on kind of the obvious exit strategies of just selling your metals, but also I do want to cover an alternative, possibly more advantageous exit strategy that can allow you to retain your precious metals in the long run and also to extract some value from them. So let's get to it. Today's video is brought to you by Silver Botanicals, household and personal hygiene products that utilize the power of nano silver. Check them out over at silverbotanicals.com. There's a link down in the description, and don't forget to use coupon code STACKER to save 10% off your order. Alright, so first off, before we get started, I do have to just let you know that I am far from an expert on exit strategies from silver. Now, I'm not necessarily an expert on anything, I'm just a guy on YouTube, but specifically with exit strategies, I'm only speaking really in speculative terms because I've never actually sold any of my physical precious metals. And I probably won't be for a while, at least not until they appreciate significantly in price, because I have a strong conviction that precious metals, especially silver, are significantly undervalued at today's prices. And by almost any measure, silver is extremely cheap at the moment. Whether you're talking about the gold to silver ratio, the Dow to silver ratio, the housing to silver ratio, silver is at a historical low. So that is why currently I am stacking precious metals, and silver in particular, and I don't really plan to exit my position in physical metals unless the value relative to other assets moves much higher. Now, notice I didn't say that the dollar price moved much higher, because I really suspect that the dollar in its current form will end in my lifetime. And, when that's going to happen, I'm not sure. It could hang on for another decade or two, who knows? But I am sure that this experiment in global fiat currency that we are currently in the midst of, it cannot last forever. And honestly, right now, with record debts and deficits in the dollar, with other countries beginning to look at alternative currencies as reserves, with international energy payments beginning to be settled in other currencies, it seems like the cracks in the dollar system are starting to show. So, yeah, if the dollar sticks around and the dollar price of silver shoots way up, I might consider selling. It would depend on the overall economic picture as a whole, but it's also possible that I might not be selling until some other monetary paradigm has taken the place of the current one. And maybe that will just mean a significantly devalued dollar, or it could mean something entirely new. I can't see the future. I don't have a crystal ball, but the weakness of the dollar system is really central to my reason for stacking silver in the first place. But all of that being said, let's discuss some exit strategies that one might consider for gold or silver today or in the future. So first of all, of course, you can always sell your precious metals, and you can do that in a variety of places. You can always go to your local coin shop, and if you do that, I would shop around a few, try to find a few that are within a convenient distance of you, and, just call them and ask them what they're paying for metals, because you're probably going to notice that some are paying a lot more than others. And you don't want to just go with the first dealer you speak with. You always want to shop around. And the same goes for online dealers. A lot of the big online dealers like JM Bullion, ATMEX, etc., they will buy your precious metals from you. You can call them, or some of them have forms on their websites. JM Bullion will even give you buyback pricing on specific bullion products on their website. And when you do that, you basically just, I believe, box up the metals and mail them off to them, and they cut you a check. It's pretty straightforward. Another place that you could sell your metals is to a metal refinery. So a place that is going to process your silver, and they're going to sell it possibly to industrial users, or maybe back to a mint who's going to turn it back into other bullion products. Now, that's probably going to be your worst option in terms of getting the best price for your metal. But in a situation where, say, the price spikes up and there's just a lot of movement in the system in general, you might find that a metal refiner is the only, liquid buyer. I'm not saying that's absolutely going to be the case, but there are scenarios where that could play out. And if you do sell to a metal refiner, pure silver like this 0.999 fine kilo bar, or like this bar here, or even like a silver eagle, although, hopefully it doesn't come down to selling your eagles to a refiner. Considering the premium situation on those, it's kind of hard to imagine a scenario where that would become something viable, but, it could. Those things are going to be more saleable than less pure bullion products, like say this 90% silver half dollar. Because the refiners are going to be able to refine pure silver a lot more easily. I mean, basically just melt it down and you're good to go. Whereas with something like this, if you want to actually get pure silver, you've got to remove the other elements of the alloy. In the case of this coin, it's mostly copper. So a refiner's going to have to do a little bit more work. So you're probably going to get a better price for pure silver if you're selling to a metal refiner. Now, probably the best way to get the most value for your metal if you are selling it is going to be to sell it to other stackers or investors. Cut out the middleman. And there's a number of ways you can do that. There's a subreddit called PMs for Sale, for example. I've never participated in it myself, but I know there is sort of a built-in rating system to determine the reliability of buyer and sellers in there based on feedback from other users. You can always use eBay, but that's not really cutting out the middleman because eBay is going to charge you some fees. Although you never know, you might be able to get a better deal for your metals on eBay than, say, going to your local coin shop. And this is all stuff that is going to fluctuate from moment to moment. What's the best deal right now for selling your metals isn't necessarily going to be the best place to sell your metals next year. So this is something that when the time comes to sell, you really need to shop around and kind of assess the market and see where the best place is to sell your metal. And of course, if you can find just other private stackers nearby that you can transact with privately, that is probably going to be the way that you can get your best deal. And it's a win-win because if you do successfully cut out the middleman, your buyer is not going to have to pay a high premium and you're going to get a better price. You're not going to have to take a haircut on your metal. So cutting out the fees charged by a middleman or a market maker like a bullion dealer or a coin shop means that both the parties in the transaction, both you and your buyer, are going to be getting a better deal. But it is a little more work, identifying those buyers, finding them, figuring out the terms of the agreement, and specifically finding somebody who wants to buy, the same amount of silver that you want to sell. That is all a little bit of extra work, and that's why market makers and middlemen take their cut, because they're doing work. So if you want to do the work for them, you can, and you'll probably get a little bit more return, but again, it is work. And, here's the thing. Today, if I were going to sell my metal, I probably would just try to go to the local coin shop or the bullion dealer who was going to give me the best price, because it would be a lot of extra work to find that private buyer. But in the future, the kind of environment that is really ideal to sell into is one in which sellers are in short supply. And anybody who's been stacking for a while and paying attention to the market knows that whenever there's a lot of market uncertainty or there's a lot of movement in the precious metals, either up or down, inventories get very tight and premiums move way up on physical products. And I suspect that what we've seen in the past is only a preview of what is to come when we get a real dollar crisis or a real sovereign debt crisis, or the price of precious metals skyrockets, which I think is in the cards. That's my personal opinion. Again, none of this is financial advice. I'm just a guy on YouTube. I'm just sharing with you my thoughts. I'm far from being an expert on selling precious metals, but the environment I would want to sell into is one in which supply is very limited, sellers are hard to find, and there's an abundance of buyers out there because people are scrambling to get metals. Now, in that kind of an environment, I don't really think it would be that hard to cut out the middleman, because there's going to be so many buyers out there that if you just, breathe a word that you have metals for sale, they will find you. But I did mention in the intro to this video that there was another way of exiting your precious metals position, which I view as probably being the best alternative, and that is by using your precious metals as collateral for a loan. Now, if you want to do that today, there are a number of services available. A lot of the bullion dealers online actually have a service for this, and they'll loan you out about 75% of the value of precious metal collateral that you put up. JM Bullion also has something on their website. I think they partner with a third-party lender. And basically what this means is you provide your precious metals to a lender as collateral for a loan. They give you money, and then you pay it back, and you get your metals back. And there's a lot of reasons that this is advantageous. You're going to get better terms on a collateralized loan like this than, say, unsecured debt, so you're going to be paying a lower interest rate. Also, your credit history is really not going to be too much of a consideration for the lender because the loan is secured by your metal. So if you default, they can just liquidate your metals, and they're not really out anything. And this is my ideal scenario for exiting a precious metals position because, like I mentioned earlier, Silver is extremely cheap relative to other assets right now, but I do believe that there will be a time in the future when that trend reverses. So ideally, what I would like to be able to do is take a loan against my physical metal in the future, use that cash to acquire cash flowing assets like homes, apartments, stocks, and profitable dividend paying companies, and then use that cash flow from those assets to service and pay off my loan. And then when the loan is paid off, you get your metal back and you also have your assets. And I would also like to point out that in today's environment, loans are easy to get for most people. Interest rates, although they're moving up now, they are still historically low. Loans for homes are available. Unsecured consumer debt in the form of credit cards are available. Home equity loans are available. But this is historically unusual. The Fed has had this artificially easy, accommodative policy for a long time now. We're literally awash in fiat currency, and that is in large part why assets like real estate and stocks have risen to such inflated prices. But at some point in the future, this will likely no longer be the case. Again, when specifically, I don't know, but I do know that what we have going on now is unsustainable. And when all of this changes and credit becomes tighter, as it inevitably must at some point, asset prices, at least in real terms, in terms of real money like gold and silver, will be coming down. And that is the time when credit is tight and hard to get. That's when having some collateral for your loans will really give you an advantage. And few assets have the history as a store of value like gold and silver, so I suspect that they will be seen as good collateral for loans long after my lifetime has passed. And while I am convinced that gold and silver will be appreciating relative to other assets at some point in the near future, if that never happens, I will be content for my exit strategy to simply be to leave behind some generational wealth for my descendants, which is another role that gold and silver have successfully played for over 1,000 years. And at today's prices, I am personally not exiting any of my positions in metals. I am acquiring more because right now metals are what is cheap. And you know what they say, you want to buy when there's blood in the street. And when there's blood in the street in other asset classes, that's when I will be exiting my metals position. Although if conditions are right, hopefully, rather than selling my silver, I will be able to use it to acquire those other assets and keep my metal at the same time. To me, that would be the ultimate win-win. So let me know what you think. What are your plans for exiting your position in metals? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more videos about gold and silver, then check out the videos popping up on your screen right now. And I will catch you next time. Thank you all very much for watching. Smart Silver Stacker, out.